In this video, we're going to be adding our first fund vehicle. This could be your Fund 1, Fund 2, Fund 3, etc., but it could also be special purpose vehicles, SPVs. But basically what we're doing is we're going to be setting up vehicles so we can segment our portfolio later on, run reports by fund, compare fund performance, etc. So then when we add a portfolio company later on, we can choose which fund is making the investment. That's basically what this step is. We can do this either way. We can either navigate to the funds section on the menu, or because we're still in the onboarding section, I can just go straight to create your first fund. But the alternative is just to go to the funds page. You'll see a list of any funds you've added, and then we can either import them from Excel or we can create a new one. I'm going to create a new one right here. I'm going to call this, we're going to call this Cambiata Capital Fund 1. Now we've got commitment amount. This is basically how much investors have committed to your fund. So let's say it's a $100 million fund. We just simply type in 100 million. And you don't type 100, you put in the full thing. And that's because later on when we add transactions, etc., it'll be comparing that actual dollar invested versus the committed amount, so you can tell how much has been invested relative to your committed amount, etc. Now we can also do currency. We've got lots to choose from. This will just be basically throughout your app, the default currency, then that will apply to any fund investment, any company within that fund. You can still change it, of course, but I'm going to go with USD. That's very common. And then vintage year is basically what year the fund first started. I'm going to say 2020 for an example. And then, or maybe we should go 2025 actually. And then we can see fund year. Most funds are around 10 years long. This doesn't have too many implications other than just saving it as a field, but later on when we go to analytics and forecasting, it is actually a default value, so you can actually forecast out over the rest of the fund life, but not super important. We can just leave it as is. And then active, really just if you want to create a new vehicle that maybe you're fundraising for and put it in advance, or maybe it's an old fund that's closed and you just want to include it for historical records. Again, not that important. And then we've just got some optional fields down here, which are, what you're focused on, what your description is. I don't need to put anything in here, but maybe we go, SaaS and healthcare. And then down here, description, again, not needed, but, mid-market P fund in Southwest USA. Could be anything. And that's it. We've created our first fund. Now, you'll see it's now opened up to our fund. We can always go back to our funds page and see it showing here, including some of the fields we've added. But we can always click into that and now see some of the fields we've added. We can also see how much we've invested, which is nothing yet because we haven't added any companies or transactions. But probably the only other thing that I want to draw to your attention is we can now go through, this will just take us to our portfolio page. We can also add in limited partners. So I might just quickly cover this off. So limited partners are effectively your investors in the fund. You don't need to add these in, but you can if you like. You can either do a bulk upload via Excel or you can just add a single LP. I'm just going to do both. I'm going to quickly add in one LP. So for example, limited partner name. So this is just, could be an informal name for them. So let's call them, Asia Alts. And then what happens is typically with funds is if someone like Asia Alts, they're going to invest via a vehicle. So they might have, a particular trust or a company. They might even have multiple entities that this group is investing via. And that's because they might have their own fund of funds. They might have, different vintages and different vehicles that they want to invest in. So I'm going to assume it's only one vehicle they're investing in, but if you wanted to add more, you can always click add another vehicle. Then I'm going to go Asia Alts Fund 1. They invest in US dollars, and let's say they invested 50 million. These are an anchor LP. Or I can just change the percentage, and let's say that we want to change that to 40%. You'll see that's updated automatically. Now the contact details, we can always add this later. It's not critical, but this is more if you want to add them to an investor portal or anything like that later on. You can add in contact details, but you can always go to the contacts page later on, or you can do it now as part of this step. Anyway, I'm going to add in that limited partner. They've now been added in. But you can also see, so you can see they've 40% there. But we can also do a bulk upload, which I'm going to quickly do. So we can download a template in Excel. This is if you've got a lot of limited partners that you want to upload at the same time. So I've downloaded the Excel file. It's off screen at the moment, but I'll drag it across and hopefully you can see it. So we've got some examples over here, and pretty simple file, LP, vehicle name, commitment amount, currency. So let's say maybe we've got another investor who's like an anchor investor. How much have we got left? 60 million that we can put in here. So let's say maybe we'll go 10 million in this vehicle, 20 million in that one, so we're up to 30, 20, let's go 14 and 16. So that adds up to 60 mil. We've now got our vehicles in there, but obviously you can change all of this. You'll notice that, we've just got one LP, but they're investing 4 vehicles, which is why we've done it this way. But if they were 4 individual investors, maybe you could give them individual names like that. So I'm just going to save that, and then what I'll do is I'll upload this now. So I'll choose the file, uploading it. You can see it's just done a quick check. Yep, that all looks good. Click upload. We've now added in our LPs into the app. Cool. So now we can see we've got HarborVest, we've got Asia Alts. We can see the commitment amounts. There's no error because it adds up to 100%. And now we've got our LPs. Now, other sections, we've got invested capital. This will show up once we start adding in transactions. Same for expenses. If you do add any expenses in transactions, these will show up there. We haven't done that yet, which is why it's 0. And then finally, we've got documents. So this is if you just want to upload any, like a limited partner agreement or any other key documents, so that when you access this particular fund later on, you can access the documents quickly. Probably the only thing that I haven't covered for adding a fund is just importing via Excel. It's really just the same process. You can click import, download the Excel template. It's downloaded a template now. I won't go through the full process here again, but as you can see, it's downloaded this Excel file, and it's basically got the same fields that we filled in, right? So all you do is you just fill this in, and if you've got a lot of funds that you want to upload, you can fill in multiple funds at the same time. Obviously, you want to change all the details. Click save, choose the file, upload it, and you'll populate up to as many as you want funds in one go. So that's just a quicker way of doing it. And of course, at any time, you can always export this to Excel as well. So that is the overview for how to add funds. In the next step, we will go and add our first portfolio company. And you can see that's the next step in our onboarding process.